Hello, this is Jenny Gerardo and welcome to my channel. And we are here at Toronto Harbour to enjoy the views of the Toronto skyline and as well to visit the Toronto Islands. So the highlights of this experience is to enjoy the best views of the Toronto skyline and to learn the history of the islands and harbor, and also to take advantage of great photo opportunities. This tour features a live narration designed to entertain and inform as you explore the region. So we just paid $29.99 for an hour to visit the Toronto Islands and to enjoy the views of the Toronto skyline.
Yeah, awesome. My name is Daniel. I'll be your tour guide and your first mate for the next hour or so cruise around the Harborfront. Probably much more concerned about who is driving the boat though. Behind the wheel we have the very talented Captain John. You can say hi to John. John and myself are both fully licensed with Transport Canada, so we're trained in marine emergency duties, first aid, and CPR. We have life jackets on the side of the boat, here at the bottom, fully inflatable life raft on the roof of the boat. We have never had to use any of our safety equipment in the history of our company. The water is very cold today, so we are not planning on breaking that streak today. Now you guys are free to stand up and walk around throughout the tour. Just please do not lean outside of the boat in any way. Other than that, we should be good to go to start with the tour. So if you look up on the right-hand side of our boat, you'll see our gorgeous Harborfront. Great place to go for a walk, a run, a bike ride. Lots of parks, restaurants, museums along the waterfront here. It didn't always look like this. Up until about the 1970s, this area was very industrial. Along the waterfront, we had lots of factories and warehouses, lots of pollution in the water and in the air as well. Really not a great place to be at all. That all changed in the 1970s though. In 1972, that's when our government started the revitalization project here on the Harborfront. That's a fancy word meaning that we moved all of our factories to Hamilton, Ontario. So very unfortunate for Hamilton, but good for us. We got this nice Harborfront area out of it. Now we didn't completely get rid of our industrial buildings. We just kind of cleaned up the inside of the buildings, left the outside intact. If you look along the waterfront, you'll see a lot of remnants of our industrial past. And we'll start with this red brick building on the right-hand side. It is called the power plant. Does anyone want to take a wild guess as to what this building might have functioned as? Power plant, that is correct. No trick questions here on the Harbour Tour. Was a power plant. We've since cleaned up the inside and it now serves as a contemporary art gallery. And if you're not a fan of contemporary art, they also have very clean public washrooms and very good air conditioning on warm summer days. So it's something for everyone to check out. To the left of that, you can see the white and black building. This is the Harborfront Center, kind of our cultural hub on the waterfront. A lot of the buildings along the waterfront are run by the Harborfront Center. The Harborfront Center is a not-for-profit organization that is built to educate the public through the arts and culture. So a lot of the events going on here are free to the public. Just past these boats coming up on the right-hand side, you'll see a small stage. It's about 400 people, and this is where we'll host a lot of different free movies, concerts, and performances throughout the summertime. Just to the left of that, you'll see this white footbridge called the Amsterdam Canal Bridge, given to us as a gift from the city of Amsterdam, back when their mayor visited our city in the 70s. And if you've seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you might recognize this bridge. This is where they filmed the two main characters' first kiss in that movie. And it is also where our very own Captain John hopes to one day share his first kiss as well. Just to the left of the Amsterdam Bridge is the Amsterdam Brew House. Unfortunately not a gift from the city of Amsterdam, just a coincidence. Also one of the names of Rio. Now, of course, we wouldn't want to wait 3 hours in the event of an emergency, so that's why we have a police unit here. They basically replace the Coast Guard here in the Toronto Harbour. They can get anywhere you can see in the harbour or the islands in about 2 minutes or less on their very, very high-speed boats. Just behind the police station, you can start to see the base of the CN Tower. I'll talk about that on the later half of the tour, though we'll get a better view of it when we're further out in the harbour. For now, I will talk about its shorter, chubbier building the chubbier neighbor to the left also holds the record as the world's first fully functioning retractable roof stadium. That white dome part at the top fully retracts, revealing the entire playing field to the sky. Now, you may have noticed I said the words fully functioning. That's because the city of Montreal, they actually built a retractable roof before us 2 years earlier. However, they opened their roof once, it got stuck halfway. Alright, so we've now started our turn south towards the Toronto Islands. If you look up on the right-hand side of the boat, you'll see the first of those 15 islands. This one is called Airport Island. Airport Island is home to Billy Bishop International Airport. This is technically an international airport. We only fly to one other country though, and that is the United States. Even then, we can only mostly go to the more northern eastern part of the United States. So we'll go to places like Boston, Chicago, New York, as well as some other regional airports here in Canada, places like Ottawa, Montreal, Halifax. We can only go to destinations that are about 2 to 3 hours in length. Passing the Island Yacht Club. They have a bit of a funny tradition. They like to name their boats after the owner's professions. There's a boat called Safe Returns, owned by an investment banker. There's a boat called Turbulence, owned by a pilot. There's another boat called Stress Free. That one is owned by a divorce attorney. There's a boat there's a boat owned by two doctors. One is a proctologist, the other one is a psychiatrist. They named their boat the Heads or Tails. And then there's some boats we're not really quite sure what they do, like Chicken Soup the Sixth on the end there. Back to Hamlin's Point on the right-hand side. You might be wondering what happened to the entertainment district that was out here. A couple of reasons it's not here anymore. In the 30s and 40s, we had the Great Depression, World War II, so this area slowly started to die down. The businesses started to fail. Kind of a new trend when it comes to building condos. This is where they will put a lot of the amenities like the gym and the pool, as well as some of the more expensive penthouse suites usually found in those sky bridges. To the left of that is the Toronto City Ferry Terminal. So we have 5 public ferries in total. The rest are out on the harbor right now. The ferries travel to 3 different points on the islands. 2 of those we passed. They go to Hamlin's Point on the west. That was where we entered the islands. They go to Center Island in the middle. That was the busy island that we passed. And then they go to Ward's Island on the eastern side. The one ferry at the dock is called the Onguera. This one's a bit interesting. This is actually our ice-breaking ferry. It breaks about 3 feet of ice, weighs over 100,000 pounds. And the reason we have an ice-breaking ferry is that in the winter, I mentioned the water in the islands freezes. Here in the harbor, because it's deeper, it usually doesn't completely freeze over, but we will get kind of sheets of ice forming on the surface. So that is why we have the Onguera. It continues running in the winter time for the residents that live out on Ward's Island, as well as for the public school out on the islands. Coming up on the right, you'll see these 2 L-shaped brown buildings with the brown windows and the gap in between them. These may not seem like much, but these are the first residential condos that were ever built on our Harborfront. They were built back in the early 70s. As you can imagine, when an area has been very industrial for a very long time, you can't just clean it up overnight. It takes quite a while to get rid of all the pollution in the water and in the air. So when these condos were first built, and for the first 10 years or so after that, there was still lots of pollution around. Lots of factories were still in the process of being shut down. So these condos were not a very desirable place to live at whatsoever. The condos were only selling for about $30,000 each. Despite that, it took over 4 years to sell out. All different how much those are going for. Just on the right hand side, on the corner of our slip, you may notice this big brown concrete ball with the wedge in the middle. I'd be wondering what this is. This is called the sundial pulley. It is a piece of modern art. I'm sure you're aware of sundials. Normally the way they work, they use the position of the sun to tell the time. This one works a bit different than that. The way it works, you walk up that metal ramp at the back, you put your arm out at just the right angle, and then you turn it over and you check your watch because it doesn't work. This is Canada's largest non-functioning sundial. It does tell us one time.